Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Order 66 was objectively a dark day for the Jedi Order, but the silver lining is that it was also the ultimate test in combat skills for some Jedi. Not necessarily that guy, but for those who did survive, they basically finally tested every little thing they've learned throughout their entire career, because that's what it really took for them to make it out alive. Today I want to talk about 7 of the most dangerous and difficult escapes carried out by Jedi during Order 66. If anyone was going to survive Order 66, it was going to be Yoda, the Grand Master of the Jedi Temple. This guy is about the same height as his lightsaber, he can bounce around a room like a pinball, and he has force powers for days. He can also literally soak up lightning into his hands and not get all super wrinkly. Well, more wrinkly. On top of that, he also had several visions about Order 66 just months before it happened, so yeah, if anyone was going to survive Order 66, it was going to be Yoda. At the time, he was stationed on the forest world of Kashyyyk, as many of you probably know if you watched episode 3. Yoda had a personal connection with the Wookiees and was posted there because of his familiarity with the species. The Wookiees had fortified the beaches outside of their great tree city of Kashyyyk, and the Grand Army of the Republic's 41st Elite Corps was entrenched alongside them, trying to hold off a Separatist beach landing. When Order 66 was executed, Yoda was watching over the battlefield from a tree observation post. In the 41st Elite Corps, the Order 66 message was received by Commander Gree, who was stationed alongside Yoda. The Grand Master had already felt the deaths of other Jedi through the Force and was fully prepared for the Commander's assassination attempt. Luckily for Yoda, the Wookiees on the planet were loyal to the Jedi above all else, and they quickly escorted Yoda away from the front. The news that the clones had attempted to kill Yoda would quickly spread across Kashyyyk, causing the alliance between the clones and Wookiees to break. In the midst of all the confusion, Chewbacca and the warlord Tarful help Yoda find his way to an escape pod so he can get off-world. It's not the most impressive escape, especially when you consider how powerful Yoda is. He probably could have handled more, but because so few Jedi actually survive Order 66, he rounds off the bottom of this list. No one has died more in Star Wars without a means of coming back than Jedi Master Shaak Ti. First, she dies during the Battle of Coruscant, where she gets captured by General Grievous aboard the Invisible Hand. Then she dies while meditating in the Jedi Temple during Order 66. Anakin walks in and stabs her in the back. That is actually the official canon version for now. And the same thing happened to the LEGO version of her as well. And yes, in case you are wondering, we are all held accountable for what the LEGO versions of ourselves are doing as well. LEGO Alan, for instance, has left behind a lucrative career as a LEGO pirate, preying on LEGO cruise ships after contracting the coronavirus from irresponsibly infected LEGO vacationers. But don't worry, he's fully recovered now after spending a week in quarantine at LEGO Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, which actually sent all of its students home and was converted into a pleasant countryside quarantine hospital after LEGO Wimbledon ran out of beds. And now LEGO Alan is at the LEGO City Hospital donating antibodies to less fortunate LEGO kin. LEGO Alan is an inspiration to all of us. Now, the official story is that Shaak Ti does get killed in the Jedi Temple by Anakin Skywalker. Apparently, she's so good at falling into a trance, she's able to tune out all of the children screaming and blaster fire outside of her chambers. Now, in one version of Legends, Shaak Ti actually isn't just meditating, she's outside fighting against the clone troopers attacking the temple, but ultimately she realizes that it's hopeless to keep fighting these endless waves of clones, so she starts evacuating Jedi members to the lower levels of Coruscant. Shaak Ti would eventually escape Coruscant and settle down on the fungi jungle planet of Felucia. But unfortunately, her peace would not last. Darth Vader's apprentice Starkiller would eventually find her and confront her on the planet and defeat her in a battle, forcing the Togruta Jedi to Epstein herself into a Sarlacc pit. Ahsoka Tano would have avoided Order 66 altogether had she just never returned to the Jedi Order after they accused her of being a terrorist. But I guess life in the Coruscant underworld was too boring. After Ahsoka and Lady Bo-Katan Kryze find out that the former Sith assassin Maul has reemerged on Mandalore, Ahsoka can't help but get involved. And so while Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi head back to Coruscant to help rescue Palpatine from Grievous, Ahsoka, Bo-Katan, and Captain Rex, along with a division of 501st Legion, rush to Mandalore and quickly besiege the capital of Sundari. Now, we don't know exactly what happens during the siege because that episode has not yet come out. But we do know that in the middle of the siege, Order 66 does happen and Ahsoka Tano escapes, most likely with the help of Captain Rex, who has removed his inhibitor chip. I'm sure witnessing a bunch of clones turn their blasters against her reinforced the idea in Ahsoka that the Jedi were on the wrong side of the war. Cal was just a young Jedi when Order 66 happened. Despite clearly being a child, his master Jaro Tapal had brought him to the siege of Mygeeto, perhaps one of the more terrifying and dangerous theaters in the war. Jaro was training Cal on a Venator-class Star Destroyer when Order 66 was executed, creating a very deadly situation for the two Force users. While Cal tried to escape the ship by sneaking through the maintenance passages, his master sabotaged the ship's reactor. I don't really understand how this aids in their escape. I think it's a bit vindictive of the Jedi Master to do this, but hey, what do I know? Cal and his Jedi make it to the escape pods, but just as they're about to enter, Jaro is overwhelmed by a volley of blaster fire and dreams of sushi. Seeing his master mortally wounded, Cal freezes the clone troopers with force stasis, buying just enough time for the two Jedi to escape. Maybe if Jaro hadn't spent the last 10 minutes of his life trying to disable all the reactors so he could kill all the clones on board, and it definitely would have been really cool to see this imposing Lasat in action a bit more with that gigantic double-bladed lightsaber. Unfortunately, we're stuck with just Cal, but props for surviving Order 66 at such a young age, something that many more experienced Jedi could never claim to have done. Kanan Jarrus was another youngin' who had unfortunately witnessed Order 66 firsthand. Kanan, or Caleb Doom as he was called back then, was the Padawan of Deepa Billaba, the Jedi Master who had completely been broken by General Grievous on the hellhole of a planet known as Harun Kal. Some might assume that Caleb was exactly what Master Deepa needed at the time, a small, puppy-like child who needed to be taken care of and needed comforting. This way, Deepa wouldn't have to focus on her own failures. Caleb would accompany Deepa for the remainder of the war and fight alongside her on the battlefield. The two were stationed on the world of Kala when Order 66 kicked off. Deepa had just gifted Caleb with a small holocron with Anakin Skywalker on it. The two had been relaxing around a campfire with their clone troopers. Luckily, Deepa had been meditating and seen what happened to other Jedi, including Alia Secura, Plo Koon, and Ki-Adi-Mundi. She let Caleb know what was happening immediately, and this bought them just enough time to be prepared when their own clones started turning their blasters against them. Although Caleb and Deepa were able to hold their own for a few moments, the clones were continuing to rush over towards them from all over the camp, so Deepa told her Padawan to start running away. She would buy him just enough time to escape. Caleb would change his name to Kanan, and like Cal Kestis, he would lay low for quite some time, scared and alone. He would hide all traces of his Jedi past. We saved the best for last. Obi-Wan Kenobi probably had the most difficult Order 66 escape. At the time, he had been leading the 212th Attack Battalion during his assault on Utapu. General Grievous and the High Separatist Council had gathered on the planet. A Republic victory here could signal the end of the Confederacy, especially after Dooku had lost his head days earlier during the Battle of Coruscant. Obi-Wan catches up with the cyborg general, but before he can escape, an epic chase and duel ensues. The Jedi Master wins, ironically, using a blaster, which he fires several times point-blank into Grievous's exposed heart. A very cruel death caused by a very uncivilized weapon. Of course, Obi-Wan's job is not finished. He still has to lead his troops to victory. Obi-Wan reconnects with Commander Cody, who has his lightsaber that he dropped earlier during his duel with Grievous, and immediately heads off to the vanguard of their formation on his giant lizard mount. Now, Aayla Secura and Ki-Adi-Mundi only had to face blaster bolts, and they ultimately failed at life. Commander Cody, on the other hand, tried to kill Obi-Wan Kenobi with an artillery cannon, or Forefront 04 mass driver cannon to be exact. This isn't something that fired laser bolts that could be blocked. This fired death and destruction in explosive form. Not only did Kenobi survive the initial explosion, he then survives plunging a few hundred feet from a cliff into a small pool of water. He then has to escape from Utapu, which at this point is completely covered and occupied with clone soldiers, thanks to his brilliant leadership in the battle earlier. So there you have it, guys. 7 extraordinary escapes from death during Order 66. Let me know in the comment section below which one you think is the most difficult and whether you would survive that situation on your own. The answer is no. None of us would survive. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.